Chicago Sky have the number 3 pick in the WNBA draft in 2025. Who are they gonna pick?
Find out in a moment.
We're getting used to that new setup. Plus, let's not forget that my man is not in the Chicago area anymore, so he is not running on the same speed as us with the snowfall. This is the CHGO Sky Podcast, post-draft lottery edition. I'm Chris Pennant, back with you with the man, the myth, the legend that's going to take the number 1 from Kyler Murray any day now, Stephen PridGeon-Garner.
That's a wild intro, but I'm blessed as always, and I'm doing very well, Chris. How you doing, man?
Man, I already said it. We got snow on the ground. It's gray skies. I ain't got to say any more than that. I know you are. No, I'm just going to clap it up for you real quick because you got out, man. You got out.
You said that like I escaped from jail or something.
You're not here. You're not here to see it. I had to ride a divvy bike half a mile with snow hitting my face. It felt like nails. So
yeah,
you got out. You made it.
Yeah, I needless to say, I paid my dues and then some on that front. But I hear you, and I can relate to that far too well.
As always, folks, the CHGO Sky Show is a part of the ALLCITY Sports Network and CHGO Sports, and we are presented by Coors Light. When the time comes and when it's not 30 degrees outside, make sure that you choose chill. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit the like for you yourselves, and make sure if you didn't get that QR code, we're going to get it back up for you later in the show. To become a CHGO diehard, we got our lady of, I'll figure out a better nickname. We got Sarah Fichter on the wheels of steel behind the board. Ooh, you already know. Well, let's get into it, man. The Chicago Sky didn't win the draft lottery, but as we saw in the Angel Reese gifts, photos, images that we put up on the X and the Blue Sky pages, follow us on Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm.
We got the number 3 pick in the draft. Not a bad spot to be in, especially considering that the alternative would be the Dallas would probably swap picks with us. So I think number 3 is the best place for the Sky to have gotten into.
I cannot agree more with that. Things continue to shake in favor of the Sky having opportunity to build the team that they desire to then compete with. They got a coach that they desire to have. Now they have some pick situations that are advantageous for them. And that will be taking place at a timestamp, though it's not the topic of this conversation, after WNBA free agency is taking place. So there's a lot of moving parts as far as what this team is going to look like. And even before I get to that, free agency-wise, the expansion draft is taking place next month. So there's a lot of different timestamp moments that are coming in succession. We're talking about the one that's furthest away at this point, but it's the one that's the most in their control at this moment in time as well. So I think they're in a solid situation, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the minds of this new era of Chicago Sky basketball put together.
No doubt. We saw a little bit of that at Tyler Marsh's introductory press conference. I know that you discussed that with our friend of the show, Shaban Beslow, as well as Nikias Duncan on the post-press conference show. One thing that interested me that came out of that presser is not only that there's an obvious mandate to improve the Sky's offensive showing, which was near the bottom of the league in total offense, near the bottom of the league in 3 points taken and made, and near the bottom of the league in offensive efficiency. But from Julia Poe's article for the Tribune, it looks like the Sky are most definitely trying to get a shooter, but a shooter above 6 feet. It does somewhat limit their options, but you can see the reasoning. They want to get a tall wing who is going to be able to get shots off with more regularity and present more matchup problems for opposing defenses, right?
Yeah, and with that template in mind, if you want to go ahead and start speaking on names, the first one that comes to mind for me, and this is a player that I like for the Chicago Sky in this current roster context, before we got the information presented that you just spoke to, Sonia Citron. He's a wrecking ball, bro. I think that's the most concise way to dive into the details on her game. she's just a do-it-all type of player. You need her to be a secondary ball handler and playmaker off the ball, no problem. You need her to guard the point of attack, no problem. Be active in help defense, no problem. Be active in rotation when you're defending off of activity on the ball, no problem. Spot up shoot, no problem. Movement on offense, she does all of these little things that you're gonna look to surround around obviously Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, but also that you're going to look to want to have around a dynamic guard, whether that be Chennedy Carter, whether that be insert free agent guard name here that might potentially be coming to the Chicago Sky context. She's the type of piece that's a glue piece. She's not necessarily Michaela Onyenwere in size, but in defensive activity, defensive versatility, and her abilities to play off the ball in a complementary way. She checks off all of those boxes in spades.
That's somebody that you want for sure. I think it always helps to have another rebounder, as we saw teams were double teaming and zoning on Angel Reese when she was in there by herself. There's not much that you can do with Reese and Cardoso, but you could, if you can add a wing rebounder at 6'1", as Citron is, she could. Yep. I know there's differences in the way that people grow, but I still think that as long as she's in college, she could still grow another inch, so she could come out at 6'2". Mm-hmm. Look at the numbers from her conference career, considering the conference that the Notre Dame plays in the Atlantic Coast. Never less than 5 rebounds, about 4.5 her sophomore season, but 4.5 is close enough to 5, so I'll just say it. Always 1+ steals per season and hovering right around 1 block per season. So that definitely speaks to the defensive versatility that you pointed out.
Mm-hmm. Those are the things for me that stand out more than anything else. And you look at the program she's coming from with Noelle Ivy, who everybody reveres in respective ways. One thing that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are going to do, especially under Noelle, they are going to play with activity defensively. And you look at it, that the roster in general is fun, but you look at every piece that's in that starting lineup for that team, everybody's getting after it. Spearheaded by who other than Hannah Hidalgo. And then you got Maddie Westfield underneath all of that, playing from inside out, but still playing with a level of activity that doesn't drop off from guard to center. And everybody in between, including Citron, they just get after it. And I think that's a brand, that's an identity that Tyler Marsh is going to want to bring forth with this new rendition of the Chicago Sky that he's leading. And I think she's the type of player defensively that could accentuate off of what I expect to be a more active defense in terms of the expectations from Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso in the front court. You tandemize that with a point of attack defender and wing defender, the likes of Citron. I think you're working with something there. Obviously, she might not necessarily start if she was to be drafted by the Sky, but I think that she's a player that could come in and immediately have impact based off of what her reputation is already.
Now, it's funny you say that because with the WNBA's reach still expanding, that what you see there is mock drafts that outside of the number 1 or number 2 pick in years like this are wildly different. Consider that in the ESPN mock draft, which is headed by Michael Volpel, who's been in this business longer than we've been alive close to, they have Sonia Citron at number 10. The CBS mock draft has Sonia Citron at number 4. And that's Jack Maloney, again, who is a solid writer in this space. So I like the fact, we're going to discuss this anyway, right? But I like the fact that we have different ideas on what the number 3 pick could be because there is so much variation past Page and past, I think everybody's kind of locking in Kiki Iriafen at number 2 going to the Sparks. Olivia Miles is up there, and I know that the mandate is for shooting, but I like what Jack Maloney says here on CBS. She's been so good everywhere else that it's hard to pass on her here, especially when the Sky need a guard. Miles has been in her dynamic best since returning from an ACL tear that cost her all of last season, and her elite playmaking would be a breath of fresh air for Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. That last part is very important when we all know the difficulties that the Sky had getting the ball inside to Reese and Cardoso. And I think this allows for them, especially Angel, to have some time to grow into a more dynamic threat moving away from the basket. Now, that said, you would like to have a guard with more range so that Angel could have some ability to operate from 10 feet, 12 feet in, rather than somebody who is more of a threat either at the basket or inside the restricted area. But what do you think about Olivia Miles in number 3?
I think Olivia is the obvious, I guess, kind of elephant in the room in a positive way. Literally checks off all of those boxes outside of the shooting dynamics from deep. But like you mentioned from Maloney, that's something that can easily be not necessarily forgotten, but you can look past it because of how thoroughly the other boxes are checked off. Playmaking and pick and roll, pushing the pace, defensive activity, being able to play just generally on offense, whether on the ball or off the ball, and have impact. I think those things have a ton of value when you're looking to build a team. When you're talking about a young team, especially, naturally you're going to lean into your skill development and expect for the three-point shot to surface sometime after the rookie season. But Olivia does it all. And I think, again, like we just talked about with Citron, that's quite literally another player cut from that same cloth, from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and Ivy's entire program and all of the principles established in terms of everything being started with defense and finishing with activity, playing to the other end offensively in the open court off of the defensive activity. And I think those things in terms of principles align directly with everything that Tyler Marsh is going to want to look to do with this team. I think he's going to be expected to be in the jersey of his opponents every single night, regardless of who the opponent is. I don't care if it's Asia Wilson. I don't care if it's insert elite guard here. Let's just say Arike Ogunbowale. They're going to be looking to pressure, and they're going to not allow teams to have fun getting in the movement or just generally trying to score in the next season.
It's telling that Tyler Marsh was noted for having a hand in the development of Jackie Young, who's become not only one of the most dynamic guards in the WNBA after a fairly slow start to her career, but a great guard who could shoot from 3 and who is a defensive whiz as well, not least of which because she's so strong, but also because she moves so well with opposing perimeter players. That was one of the things that the Sky lacked last year. They lacked a real perimeter stopper, and I think that's as important or more than having a post presence like Cardoso who can rebound and defend at the rim. So when you have somebody like Cardoso, when the Sky kind of set themselves up in a more, let's say, traditional basketball sense, going inside to out, you have your stopper and rebounders, then you work at the outside, and I think you get a defensive wing who can shoot as well. Now, here's my thing, and I don't want to jump ahead. I saw a couple of interesting picks for number 10 that could actually satisfy that. So I think that's where, as Anita Davis says here, if we could throw that author Anita Davis quote up from 305, Sarah, it's a great pick as long as the Sparks don't snag Olivia Miles before we do. I know Jeff wants hype, but he can hush. I won't say that because Jeff's been on the show and we want him to come back on the show. But I think you can get away with getting somebody Miles height who's just below 6'10", or somebody like, say, AZ Fudd. Now, this is the tough thing because AZ's had some injury trouble, and that might knock her out of the lottery, if not out of the first round. But we've seen what she can do. And I think we've seen players who've had injury problems in college or in the amateur ranks still play well in the pros.
Yeah, and I think we can kind of dive a little bit more into that after this ad break. You got to pay the bills.
My man, man's getting better every day, man. Y'all messed up. I know y'all in the comments who are with us it wasn't like y'all passed on Stephen, but everybody else out there, y'all passed on Stephen. We're going to say it like that. Stephen is the Dalton Connect of our show. All right, Chicago, you know what time it is. The summer is finally over, but it's still time to choose chill. And the best way to choose chill is with an ice-cold Coors Light. You know what it is. When the Rocky Mountains turn blue, LL Cool J is leaning out that locomotive window. That's when you're on the path to a chiller mindset. With Coors Light, it's always cold packaged, always cold filtered, always using crisp mountain fresh water from the Rocky Mountains. And when you've got the social gatherings, the holidays are coming up, when you got whatever you got on the table, whether it's turkey, whether it's duck, whether it's lamb, whether it's roast beef, anything you got, whether you're sitting next to your uncle who doesn't know anything about the W, or whether you're sitting next to your aunt who is all up in your business about how Sonia Citron should go for the number 3 pick, crack a Coors Light, share it with them. When the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. And make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get it delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Dunk. Right now, that's CoorsLight.com/CHGO Dunk. And as always, celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Now, we know the WNBA season might be over, but we want you to get ready and get Game Time so you're ready for next season. Game Time has a new feature now called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can pick an upcoming game on the app, browse through seats on Game Time Picks, and you know you're going to find a deal. We found deals. Sarah's found deals. We want you to find deals. So think of this winter as your time to prep for the spring. Check out the Bulls. Check out the Blackhawks. Check out the Bears. Check out the Wolves. Check out all that you can see in Chicago. It's not just sports. It's comedy shows. It's theater. It's concerts. You can get tickets anywhere, all at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CHGO for $20 off. That's $20. Download Game Time today. Like Ron Harper used to say, what time is it? Game time.
Game time.
Woo! We got a lot of great people in the comments today. Shout out to Rob Antal, Faz. We got the Giggities back with us. Erica H., good friend of the show. And Stephen had a response for Faz. Do you think Michaela will start over Sonia Citron? Stephen, take it away, man. You had a good answer for that.
Yeah, for one, shout out to Faz. That's a fascinating question. I think that's an embarrassment of riches defensively, that especially a coach like Tyler Marsh, who's going to be looking to have them at a certain level on that end. That plays right into everything that he's desiring to see with this team. I don't think that she start not right away, especially over Michaela. I think the outlet for Citron to start over Michaela would be if she comes in and she's just lighting the net on fire. And it's going to be off of the types of shots within the shot profile that she'd be getting, likely off of Camila getting touches in the post and a guard running pick and roll, just playing off of catch and shoot scenarios. But just generally speaking, I couldn't see Citron starting over Michaela because of the physicality that Michaela plays with defensively, and her being such a veteran and so nuanced with the little things and being a master of the little things to help accentuate around everything that they're going to be looking to do on both ends of the floor. But I will say that Citron definitely has outlets and avenues in which she can have similar impact that Michaela will. It just might not hit the same because they're different in stature and obviously the experience dynamic between the two as well. But I don't think there's a better, like in terms of looking at Citron coming into the Sky context, her with Michaela, being able to learn from Michaela and watch film with her and watch her in games, I think that would be a great asset for her and her career trajectory to come after that.
Now, I've been looking at Te-Hina Pao Pao. I know a lot of people have. She basically has the keys for South Carolina this year, and that's very important to me. She is not just a three-point shooter this year. She is a drive, and not just drive and kick, but she's a primary ball handler for the Gamecocks and Dawn Staley. And as we've seen the way that Dawn Staley, South Carolina teams not only managed to consistently stay on top in the NCAA, but the amount of players that they put into the league with very, very good results, I would put them up against Notre Dame in terms of just player development. And I don't think anybody could argue with that. So I think Pao Pao has to be up there. Again, she's under 6 foot. I think she checks in at 5'9", could get to like 5'10", maybe after coming out of college. But I think the way that she can handle the ball, the way that she can shoot from outside and get to the rim and score at a pretty good pace, it would be a reach to take her at 3 with the talent in this draft, but I think she is a viable pick at number 10. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely a viable pick at number 10. As we kind of transition to the number 10 conversations, I'm just curious how things are going to go for the team at the number 3 pick, because I think that's going to kind of impact what they end up deciding to do at 10. I like Pao Pao as a template, as a player for them to internally invest in with development. And I mean, in terms of development, what better GM and what better coach in terms of a tandem with that part, because you have then the two pieces that you would have with the Chicago Sky context. Literally being what those two have excelled at for years upon years now. But looking at that though, assuming the Sky get the shooter that they desire at the number 3 pick, I'm curious, especially as we see this list of names up, that first name in that right-hand column for everybody that's following us, and for the people that are listening to us in podcast format, that name is Rori Harmon. What would the Sky be looking at in terms of that last pick they have in the first round if they get the shooter they desire? If it's not a guard that they ultimately draft with that first pick that they have in 2025, I would love for Rori Harmon to be in the Chicago Sky context. You talk about point guards. She is every bit of that. She's shown before the injury last season was knocking down 3-pointers in pick and roll, knocking down 3-pointers in transition via the live dribble or catch and shoot, knocking down threes off of spot-up scenarios. She addressed the weaknesses that existed prior to the season that came before last that ultimately ended short for the Texas Longhorns women's basketball team. She addressed those things in spades, and she pushes the pace. And I'll go ahead and say it. I don't think this is a dice roll at all. When she's healthy, she is the most stifling defender on the perimeter in this draft. And the way she gets after it, the way she can make defenders just be completely ridded of any type of rhythm, that's an impact that I think is something that Chicago Sky fans obviously have enjoyed a lot with Dana Evans this past handful of seasons. Rori brings that and then some with a great bit of shooting touch, in addition to a handful of other things in leadership that I think this team could benefit from.
I see that when you're 2-time Big 12 all defense, when you're 2-time Power 5 conference all defense, it's hard to get away from that. And she led the conference in assists. Actually, I think she led the conference in assists her sophomore year. And there's only a few ticks below that right now at 6.5 assists per game.
This is the ramp up period for her.
Yeah, we're not in the conference section yet. We're not in the conference season yet. The one thing about it, looking at the 3-point shooting, she's never shot better than 31.9%. And no, she won't necessarily have to take a lot of threes, but I think in this alignment, when you're going to have shooters, you want to have shooters orbiting Reese and Cardoso, that you want to have a point guard who can not only handle the ball well and find players in space, but can knock down the three on the kickback. And so if she can prove that through the season, then I would be fine with that pick. The funny thing to me is that Georgia Amoore was thought to be high on the Sky's board before she decided to go back to Virginia Tech. And the knock on Amoore is that she's 5'6" and so would have to have cover defensively. Do you see the same thing happening with Rori Harmon, even if she gets to a league with her credentials and defensively? Once she gets to the league, she'll have to stick some bigger guards. Do you think that she'll have trouble at the next level?
So this is no slight to Georgia Amoore, because I love Georgia Amoore as a prospect and I love her game. But I don't see Rori having those issues, because Georgia Amoore is a dog. I think you add a couple more caps in dog when you're speaking to Rori Harmon, because of the activity levels that she plays with on that defensive end of the floor and how that consistently sets the tone for everything to come. Like, she just gets after it. I've watched her getting scenarios switched with bigs or opposing fours, and they try to walk her to the post, and that's assuming that the pass is even able to make it to the post because of how feisty she is and being able to jump and intercept those entry passes. If you have to put the ball on the deck at all, it's getting stolen, or that dribble is being terminated to the extent that where you're not going to even be able to get up a shot. And she's able to do all of those things individually before a second defender that's going to try to help the double team when she's in that mismatch scenario might even surface. And I spoke earlier when I'm speaking to Citron about Hannah Hidalgo and how impactful and effective she is at the point of attack. Every bit that Hannah Hidalgo is in terms of being that dog with just ridiculous levels of activity defensively, picking up full length of the court. Rori Harmon is cut from that exact same cloth. She's that exact same type of guard, and she plays with even a bit more physicality than Hannah Hidalgo does at this moment in time. Now, when Hannah puts on even a little bit more muscle, she's going to very much be the exact same type of player defensively that Rori Harmon is. But at this moment in time, I think Rori has the slightest bit of an edge just because she could take more bumps and she could also dictate with more bumps. And I think that's something that she can carry from the collegiate level to the WNBA level.
Now, I asked Sarah to put a name up on that graphic, and I know there's a lot of big names up there. Sarah, if you could bring that graphic back. So we got Anissa Morrow, who unfortunately for us and for all of Chicago, I don't think she'll be coming back to the Sky, at least at this time, because her game is does not translate to what the Sky is looking for. We have some questions in there. Will Paige slide below the number one pick? If I win $1 million on the next scratch-off ticket I buy, then Paige might come to the Sky. It's kind of that type of chance. Raven Johnson is an interesting name in there, but I want to see how she develops with South Carolina. She's got a good touch inside and is a great defender like pretty much everybody on South Carolina is. But I asked Sarah to put Aaliyah Nye in there at the end because I was checking to see which players were leading the association in three-point shooting. Now, granted, Aaliyah Nye's three-point shooting percentage is up there. It's like 40+%. But when I was watching their game against Louisiana Monroe a couple of days ago, Nye stood out as a good shooter. But Sarah Ashley Barker is their lead guard, who's only a couple inches shorter at 6 foot. And she was not just the most dynamic player on the floor. She can shoot from the outside and she can get to the rim. And I think she's playing in the SEC. She's playing in Alabama in the toughest conference in women's basketball, averaged 18 points last year. Her three-point percentage has gone up every single year that she's been in school. She shoots well from the line. She gets steals. She's active defensively. I think that's what the Sky are looking for. And if you look at the Brenna Maxwell pick last year, Barker is even more of a playmaker than Brenna Maxwell was with Gonzaga. So I don't know how far up she is in people's minds or on people's draft boards. But even at number 10, considering that Alyssa Pilley was in people's minds as a Sky pick last year at number 8 before they moved up to number 7, I think Sarah Ashley Barker would be a solid pick. If y'all haven't seen her yet, check her out. She's got what they're looking for.
I mean, based off of everything that you're saying, I'm sold and at least going to do my diligence and research. We'll definitely be keeping that name out and just kind of tapping in and checking in to see what's going on as we get into draft season after the calendar turns the page into 2025, and now we start getting out more content on the writing side of things. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm thoroughly intrigued now.
For sure, man. And it's like I said, the mock drafts give you some names that we're not always familiar with, and just the breadth of college basketball. I think Mark Schindler is the only person who I would say, yeah, Mark has probably watched this game, just pulling a random game out of the college basketball directory. Everybody else, I'm like, yeah, I know, yeah, it's tough, it's difficult, but we have the benefit of we got jobs.
That's the job, man.
We've got the benefit of Alabama playing in the SEC, so we're going to see a lot of them this year. Let's let y'all know. We got to let y'all know that the Chicago Sky, the CHGO Sports and CHGO Sky has been sponsored by the new Chicago Sports Network, the place to watch the Chicago Bulls, the place to watch the Chicago Blackhawks, and when the spring comes around, to watch the Chicago White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across those three teams, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based and Chicago-built and Chicago to the core, just like us. And they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our 77 neighborhoods and beyond. So at CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long. Now, what would that ad read be if we didn't talk about what we got going on at CHGO? Bears fans, I know y'all are having a tough time with it, but there's 4 more Bears tailgates left this season. So join CHGO for the best Bears tailgate in the entire city, presented by Miller Lite. The tailgate's located in the large lot at the corner of South Wabash and West Cermak Road. That's East Cermak Road. I'm not sure who put that up there. Our bad. Multiple drink options, including Miller Lite and food from Firewater Barbecue, just a 25-minute walk to the game, or you can take a shuttle to Soldier Field from the tailgate lot. Tickets are available at Tailgreeter. That's TAILGREETER.com/CHGO Sports. We're also building the biggest and best community of city sports fans, and we want you to be a part of it, so much so that we're giving you a special offer today with our lowest rate ever. Become a CHGO Sky diehard today. Become a CHGO diehard today for just $4 a month. Build annually. Break the calculator out. That's $48 per year. That's less than getting a shirt at Macy's or Nordstrom Rack. You get pants and a sweatshirt for about $60, $70. You can get everything that CHGO has to offer for $48 per year. You get a free t-shirt, you get access to our exclusive written content, plenty of discounts and access to CHGO Discord Lounge where we all hang out and talk Chicago sports. This is a limited time offer, so act now. Visit chgo.com/intro to sign up today. And do not forget that CHGO can now come straight into your TV screens too. If you didn't hear about it, check it out online. Check it out on your TV. We've been on Roku. Now we're all over streaming. You got no more excuses. Check out CHGO. Become a diehard today. I feel good about that. Do you feel good about that? That was good?
I feel great about that. Yeah, that was really good.
That was solid. I mean, Steven, think about that. You're going to be in everybody's home all winter long, just showing them the palm trees and the sand outside your window. You can do that. You can stunt on us all year.
Nah, man, I ain't doing all that. But yes, the weather is better over here. I would say that considering what took place between last night and earlier today, between my mom telling me and then obviously you telling me, and my girlfriend telling me what was going on back home too. So that's yeah, not to brag and not to boast, but the weather is definitely a little more comfortable over this way.
Look at Steven left his girl in Chicago. That's bogus, bro. Oh man, I'm heated for her.
You're not the only one.
We got a good question.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to get to. I was about to shout out to Cherie Whitney. Always active on our pages individually, and especially with the main page being CHGO_Sky. I had a great question asking about Chennedy Carter. We spoke to Kennedy's. We spoke a little bit to Kennedy's. I guess candidacy with the Chicago Sky. On our most recent episode from last week, where we spoke with Nikias Duncan and I'm drawing blanks on names
Siobhan.
right now. With Siobhan Beslow. We spoke with both of those two about that in particular. But to answer it now, I'm still not sure. I mean, I would imagine he's not going to turn down the opportunity to bring back a guard that at her best can be top 5 in the WNBA. It's just a matter of what they're trying to build out with the resources they have available around Angel and Camila. If they feel like they could better address that guard spot in free agency with all of the cap space that they have available, which I believe they have, don't quote me on this, I think 2 max slots available. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of opportunity that you can present for a team with budding stars and Camila and Angel that have already staked their claim and being elites at the things that they brought to the collegiate level on the WNBA level. It's all about trying to balance those things out. And if they feel like they can get a lot of the production that they got from Chennedy in the context of a different guard that maybe adds a little bit more shooting on the perimeter, which is what they're valuing more than anything else, I could see them pivoting away from Chennedy in favor of a guard that can bring those similar dynamics with more shooting. But all of those things remain to be seen. That's just my little 2 cents on it. Chris, I'm curious what's your perspective on that?
It's hard to say, but it was noticed by a few people that Chennedy Carter wasn't present at the press conference when she was the Sky's arguably their best or second best player all season long last year. And I think she was somebody that we were thinking of and a lot of people were thinking of as a must-have for the Sky next season. Like, you try your best to sign Chennedy Carter. I think it spells that not only is Tyler Marsh getting the green light to go after who he wants, but also Jeff Pagliocca is getting the green light to go after who he wants from ownership. They have the mandate to go and get offense, and an offense, for lack of a better term in the moment, 21st century type basketball. Scoring from the outside, scoring from the inside, and that space between the paint and the perimeter, we leave those for last second and superstars. And Chennedy, while she is definitely a scorer and one of the toughest players that you have seen come across, I think they're saying that at the price tag that she would command, they're more willing to go and get players in free agency or through the draft. Now, that being said, I think you still try to re-sign Chennedy Carter because she was so effective as a primary scorer and a utility type player. When the Sky needed scoring from the bench in the first half of the season, she was there for it. When the Sky needed scoring in the starting lineup in the second half of the season, when they were pushing for the playoffs, she was there for it. There were very few times that opposing teams were able to shut her down. She's a known commodity. And I think she did pair well, if not in terms of a free-flowing offense, chemistry-wise with Angel Reese. And that's something that we haven't touched on in this show. Losing Teresa Weatherspoon was a blow to Angel Reese. And you have to keep your superstar happy and really thinking about what's next for her with this team, because we're in a day and age where players really control their own destiny more than ever before. So you have to, if you're going to build a team around Angel, you have to build a team around Angel. And some of those concessions, I think, have to come in pairing up players that she has rapport with. It's not like Chennedy is going to be just holding space, taking up space for somebody else. She's a bona fide WNBA player. So I think you make a great effort to re-sign Chennedy Carter. If she signed somewhere else, you did what you did as much as you could do, but you don't just let her walk out the door.
Yeah, I definitely get and understand that part, and I definitely don't disagree with you either. But I'm just, especially with a changing of head coach, as we know, Teresa Weatherspoon was the biggest piece in terms of going even to reach out to Chennedy Carter last season, and she hit like a gem, a diamond in the rough, if you will, because we get into the dead portion of W preseason and even training camp, and you start seeing all of these names. You see how many roster spots they have available to fill in training camp, and then you see Kennedy's name come up, and you're like, oh, that's odd that Kennedy's name is being included with a training camp contract, considering the prolific talent that we already knew her to be prior to last season. And then we see ultimately, before even the first quarter of the regular season is over, she already ascends into 6th player of the year, to starting guard, to best player, question mark on the team, and ultimately proving that even that question to be right. Rapidly ascending all the way from a training camp contract to the best player before the All-Star break of the season, and even before then. That just speaks to who she is. And I don't even think the roster context for the Chicago Sky was the most friendly to her style of play. She had 2 rookie bigs that weren't necessarily the best in terms of operating in pick and roll. That's a context where she's elite. She obviously could boogie in isolation, and second to none across the entire WNBA in that context. However, because the Sky did not have the best spacing in terms of the respect that the shooters around her had from the opposing defenses, she often saw double teams and triple teams in multiple capacities, and she still found ways to sneak through every single crevice, being at multiple moments the leading guard in terms of points scored in the paint. And I think she either finished first or second. It was her and Kalia Copper by the end of the season, which is great company to be in any basketball conversation, but especially if you're speaking to the slasher player archetype. She checked off all those boxes while not being in the most friendly in terms of a roster context that plays to her style of play. And I just want to make sure that context isn't ignored. But I do think that they might, if they can find a way to find another guard that maybe checks off those same or similar boxes and adds shooting, like I said before, I think they might err on having that guard, especially with them transitioning with Tyler Marsh and having a player that he maybe not necessarily likes more, but thinks fits his system a little bit better. I could see them trying to, navigate those waters that way. And one other quick thing, just in speaking to Chennedy, she had overseas commitments that she's been tending to in terms of playing basketball. With the W not funding their players the way that they need to, these players have to have multiple basketball jobs to, create the lifestyle that they desire to live. And that's Chennedy doing that, playing overseas, but also looking to get better and continue to refine her skill. Shooting and taking and making a whole lot more threes over there as well, I might add.
That's always interesting. In the past, we've seen overseas play not necessarily translate. Gabby Williams was always stroking it from deep in Europe, and then it never quite seemed to translate to the WNBA. But ideally, and thank you for clearing that up. We saw comments in the chat as well from Cherie and from Sky Show, I believe, saying that Chennedy was already in China. Thank you for correcting me on that. I appreciate it. Well, I would love to see Chennedy shooting it from deep next year. In the few minutes we got left, we got a good question from our man Sky Show Shy. We discussed this a few shows ago, but it'll be interesting to see if it changed. Have we talked about the top 6 the Sky might be protecting for the Valkyries draft? If you didn't catch the info, the Golden State Valkyries will get the 5th pick in each round of the WNBA draft. So as soon as the lottery's over, Golden State will be on the board. I believe we were just about identical the last time we spoke. I think our only differences were between Lindsey Allen and Rachel Banham. Stephen, have your top 6 changed at all since we last talked on it?
No, it's still the same. I still err on Rachel Banham being in that top 6, and I double down on that after hearing everything that Jeff Pagliocca, as well as new head coach Tyler Marsh, spoke to in the introductory presser last week, a little over a week ago. They both made sure to emphasize that they're looking for shooting. And if you look at the top 6, the only player that provides that in a respect that's going to garner urgency in terms of closeouts and accounting for them when they're off the ball is Rachel Banham. I know Michaela Onyenwere had a very good 3-point shooting season last year, in 2024 rather, last season. But it still isn't hidden to the respect that it's going to make defenders not want to concede even a half a foot of help off of her to get the ball out of somebody that might be driving, or obviously Angel or Camila in the post. When it's Rachel there, it hits a little bit different just because of the dynamic and the reputation for her that precedes her. She's knocked down 6 threes in I don't know how many games, including a few against the Chicago Sky alone. And she had a loud game against the Phoenix Mercury this past season on the Sunday showcase, where she just lit the net on fire. I think she had about 35 or so, and she scored a majority of that in the first half alone, all of which from deep. There's a type of sniper dynamic that comes with when you have someone like Rachel Banham on your roster, and she can also do so not just in the stand and shoot variety, but also in movement. You look at the late season game that they had in Atlanta against the Dream, where there were a multitude of Sky players out, and Rachel went and got, I believe, 30 points. And she knocked down, I think, 6 threes in that game as well. And you see the ways in which she's knocking down these threes. A little bit of pick and roll as a handler, but even more so in catch and shoot and in movement shooting off of different screening variations. I think that's something that Tyler Marsh is going to look to optimize and really bring even more of around everything that Angela and Camila are doing, and around whatever guard it is they decide on in the draft as well as in free agency.
I'm with you, man. And I know I said Lindsey Allen at the time. I think I'd actually put Rachel Banham in. We were talking about it on Slack, and then I did that thing where I changed my mind at the next to last second. But I'm with you. Rachel Banham is a proven 3-point shooter as a professional. She has a lot of experience, and I think that's the best thing about it. She has experience. The Sky are still in that youth movement era, so they need experience on the floor, on the bench, and she's somebody who can come in and, like you said, put up 20, 30 points in just about the blink of an eye. And that's something that they're going to be looking at. We've come to the end of the show. Stephen, I know you got a roll. Sarah, I know you got a roll soon too. So let's not gild the lily too much. We appreciate every single one of you who stopped by to say hi to us this afternoon. French Bulls TV, who's in Chicago. He came to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Clem for being in the city. I hope you get a win when you're here and see a win at the UC. Austin Jackson, Region Rev, who clocked in with us. Melissa, of course, Miss Melissa, the greatest Chicago Bulls fan on the face of the planet.
Thanks.
Our man, the Sky Show Shy, author Anita Davis, Rob Antal, who clocked in, Faz, and everybody in between. So smash that like button. Subscribe with us. This is the CHGO Sky Podcast, presented as always by Coors Light, CHGO Sports, and the All City Sports Network. Whether you're in Denver, Philly, Phoenix, Chicago, anywhere in the country, the All City Sports Network has you covered.
And last
Till
thing,
next
real
time,
quick,
folks. Yes, sir.
December 6th, WNBA expansion draft. That's about 3 weeks from tomorrow. Expect to hear some news in a podcast episode from us, stemming maybe potentially before if you want to go over more roster projection, but especially after that, because that'll give more clarity to the roster that we're going to be speaking to going forward.
We'll have it for you, man. All that expansion draft, I'm excited.
3 weeks. 3 weeks, man. Already.
This has been the CHGO Sky Show. Shout out to our friend Sarah Fichter on the wheels of steel. Until next time, folks, be good and do great things and keep your head above the clouds. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.